Reacher Season 3 deliberately avoids adapting one pivotal Paulie scene from the original book, which would have made audiences despise him even more. Much like its predecessors, Reacher Season 3 stays remarkably close to its source material. While it introduces a handful of changes to Lee Child's Persuader, it remains largely true to the core of the book's narrative. Similar to Persuader, the season depicts how Reacher becomes entangled in an undercover mission to uncover the truth about a rug seller's dubious business dealings with his old nemesis, Quinn. Season 3 of the Amazon Prime Video detective series also faithfully portrays one of Quinn's henchmen, Paulie, as the most terrifying and brutal villain Jack Reacher has ever faced. Mirroring the book, the series emphasizes how Paulie is not only taller and more muscular than Reacher but also physically stronger. However, the show intentionally omits one particular storyline involving Paulie that would have made him appear even more menacing. In the series, Paulie is depicted as a merciless, towering giant capable of taking down Jack Reacher with a single strike. By delving into his troubled military past and revealing how he once viciously assaulted a senior officer during his time in the armed forces, the show underscores the extent of Paulie's brutality. Episode 5 of Reacher Season 3 further cements his terrifying nature by showing how Paulie murders a maid in Zachary Beck's home after discovering she is an undercover ATF agent. These scenes solidify Paulie's complete lack of empathy and make him an overwhelmingly intimidating figure. However, the series chooses not to include Mrs. Beck, a character from the original book who frequently endures torture at Paulie's hands. Instead of making Paulie appear even more detestable by depicting his cruel treatment of Zachary Beck's wife, the show excludes Mrs. Beck entirely. It merely hints that she passed away long before the events of Reacher, which also significantly influences Zachary Beck's relationship with his son, Richard. Her absence from the show's narrative makes Paulie seem slightly less reprehensible, though it doesn't diminish his overall intimidation factor compared to his book counterpart. When Alan Ritchson's Jack Reacher confronts Paulie for killing the maid, Paulie shows no remorse, casually dismissing the murder with a flippant "oops." Given that Reacher has previously dispatched his enemies with ease, viewers might expect him to do the same with Paulie. However, to everyone's surprise, Paulie barely reacts when Reacher punches him in the ribs. As Reacher, much like the audience, struggles to comprehend the giant's sheer strength, Paulie retaliates with a brutal slap that sends Reacher crashing to the ground. In the following scene, Reacher spits blood into a bathroom sink while inspecting the red marks left on his face from Paulie's slap. Although Reacher had previously outsmarted Paulie in an earlier episode by tricking him into punching himself, the slap scene underscores how Paulie doesn't even need intelligence to overpower Reacher. His raw physical strength is more than enough. His overwhelming size advantage, military background, and sociopathic tendencies make him a formidable and repulsive antagonist, even without the inclusion of the Mrs. Beck storyline from Lee Child's original Jack Reacher novels. Reflecting on this change, Lee Child, the author of the Jack Reacher series, explained that Mrs. Beck's arc was a nasty strand, and it produced even more revulsion against Paulie in the book. But we felt we don't need more revulsion. He added that the show aimed to focus more on the criminal conspiracy at the heart of the story. Since Paulie's appearance and demeanor in the series were enough to establish him as Reacher's greatest challenge, Child and the show's creators believed his character was sufficiently menacing, without the gratuitous mistreatment of Mrs. Beck.